There you go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our September.
I'm getting there. All right, go ahead.
Do you want to have the meeting on?
Twice.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our September 15th, 2025 Board Strategic Planning Meeting. It is 9:08, well, it's actually 9:09 now. Sorry for the delay. All five commissioners are present and we've got a busy morning, so let's get going with Jeff. I'll let you introduce.
This morning, you'll have 4 of the countywide elected officials come through with their budgets. And facilities will round out the morning. And these are some of the probably easiest ones for you. They've all done really good jobs in the work up front. So setting up for a good day.
Are you jinxing it?
Knocking on wood.
Welcome. Tiffany and Ted, thank you for being here.
Well, good morning, commissioners and everybody else. We will try to make this as quick as possible. So I'll start out by saying we get the target budget, but we always like being able to tell you about our office. So in the auditor's office, we're going to go through an FTE review. And then also we'll go through the general fund departments, which are auditor, admin, reporting, auto licensing, and financial services. We do have a dedicated fund, Auditor O&M, which helps pay for our equipment and staffing. And then, of course, there's elections, and that's in its own separate budget within the general fund. So Tim will do most of the presentation. So we can move on to the next slide. And Chief Deputy Tim Donovan will go from here.
When you look at the slide here, the main thing is, notice is 25 and 26, we see a drop off, when in reality, we had eliminated some positions back in as early as 2022. However, from the budget perspective, they were keeping them on as unfunded positions, but in reality, our position, they were gone to us. We had no funding for them and no plans to rehire them. So getting to 37 actually happened a lot sooner than you see in the slide. As far as current state in 2026, we are going to be down. We're getting rid of a position and licensing. It went vacant this year. Part of the budget reductions, all that. In 2025, we gave up a position in reporting that had been filled previously. And then in 2024, 25, we also lost a filled position, a previously filled position in accounting services. So across the board, we've lost several positions in the last few years that historically had been filled, in addition to the ones that were back in 2021 and 22 that we eliminated. That gets us to the total of 6 reduction. In the next slide, when we talk about the general fund, we break it into 2 components, because elections is a general fund department, but it's always been looked at individually because of the nature of it being able to bill out for its services. So excluding elections, we have the administration functions, reporting, licensing, and then in financial services, there's really 2 components there. There's the accounting services group, which does the day-to-day accounting, as well as preparing the financial statements and dealing with the state auditor's office, the primary point of contact to the state auditor's office. And then we have accounts payable and payroll, which is the one most people deal with on a regular basis. Next slide. When we look at the general fund grouping, exclusive of elections, the key reductions that we made for the 2026 budget, we mentioned we eliminated the licensing position that became vacant earlier this year. We were fortunate that the state reduced the county contribution for PERS, which for that group of funds turned out to be about $83,000 in savings compared to 2025. And then we had another roughly $35,000 in miscellaneous payroll savings. We had some turnover in the last year, and as we've backfilled those positions, we're saving a little money with the newer people, just as they come at different steps and potentially have different benefit levels. So that gets us about $212,000 in reductions.
So great work. Thank you. I made this comment last week and I guess I'll repeat it. I'm really very, very concerned that we're not going to hit the target and not knowing what taxes might or might not be part of the solution. And Vicky, you remember back in, I think, 2011, where we actually eliminated departments out of the county and stuff. So refresh my memory, because I can't remember the details about the remote auto licensing. Are those money, you know, the offices that you have where you can go in?
Sub-agents, yes.
Yeah, the sub-agents and stuff. As I remember, those are money savers for you as opposed to expenses that you have to subsidize. Is that accurate or not?
They generate revenue for the county.
They do. Yeah,
They-
that's what
we
I
do-
thought.
We do have cost.
Yeah.
That we have to support them, monitor them, handle their inventory, so there is a cost in supporting them.
Okay.
Essentially what they are revenue generators for us. And so in motor vehicle licensing, our sub-agents handle the vast majority of the walk-ins. So they handle the, shall we say, the easier transactions. And then my office, although we do some easy transactions, we primarily do the mail, which has now become even more problematic because Department of Licensing no longer provides envelopes. So now it's taking us 2 to 3 times as long to process mail every day. So we do the mail, we do the vast majority of the internet renewals. We do, as I said, all the support of the sub-agents to make sure that they're able to operate. And then we do the tough transactions. So the mobile home transactions where people are gonna come down here 5 times, they're gonna spend up to 20 hours. So we take on all the hard stuff to make it possible for our sub-agents to give that quicker, more convenient service to our customers so that they're not coming down here. So
So I'm gonna ask a question, but I don't want an answer. I just want you to think about it. If we get to a point where we have to start eliminating things that we've done historically, think about what it is that you could eliminate out of your department. And I'm gonna ask this question of everybody.
Yeah.
It's not just you, it's gonna be everybody, because I've got a very, very uncomfortable growing concern about the budget for next year.
as do many of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I will get together with my fellow service providers, the assessor and the treasurer, and get together with them and explain some of the things that we cannot eliminate. And that does mean that we need to be able to keep mobile home transactions, while fewer than most other categories, require an incredible amount of staff time.
Yeah.
From all 3 of our departments, and those are crucial.
yeah, I know, we've gone through this process a number of times, eliminating stupid stuff we did for no apparent reason. But now I'm concerned that we're gonna be down to the bleeding. So anyway, just a question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the next slide, this goes back to talking about hitting the targets. The original adopted budget for 2025 was just under 3.38 million. Preliminarily, we have 3.3 million in 2026, so it appears we came in 75,000, 76,000 below, and we'd like to take credit for that. There's a little nuance. If you go to the next slide where we reconcile that, we've been working with the budget office. There's some in some of the loads in the adaptive planning, some benefit. I don't know where the miss is, but some things didn't get loaded. So we have about $71,000 of benefits, and Jeff can jump in.
This is the same situation you heard last week with Ashley and HR. As Tim went through to double check all their employees and their benefits, some of the things in the workday conversion that are not cost correct. So just like with Ashley, we fully support adding this back in. That's still in their budget. It's just realities of system changes.
Budget office has, been in communication the whole time, so we know exactly which ones are missing. It's about $71,000 that will happen next year because those people do have medical, dental, PERS, and all that. So in reality, we came in about $5,000 on parking, not 75. So the next slide. Look at that group, it's about $3.3 million, 3.1 million of that is wages. It's 92% wages and benefits. It's all, primarily staff driven work. So any kind of reductions, if we need to make anything significant more than a few $1,000s has to come from FTE account. When we get to elections, we'll see kind of an opposite picture, but that's the reality for us is any further reductions will result in FTE. Move the next slide, when Vicki was talking about all the licensing revenue, we are seeing a big uptick projected for 2026. The state made some changes to registration fees. It's anticipated to bring in about $1 million more. I think you've been briefed on that already. However, with Vicki was mentioning and the changes on how they are reminding people about their renewals, it could have a decrease in revenue because we're already seeing a little bit of an impact on that. They're basically going to an email notification.
Email and postcard. And so we do expect to see fewer people renew. The other thing that's happening is we're being told all the way across the state that law enforcement is stopping anybody for expired tabs. So I don't know about you guys, but because I do vehicle licensing, I see those expired tabs just like they're glow in the dark. And there are a lot of expired tabs out there. There's been times at the end of the Monroe Street Bridge where the two cars in front of me and the car slightly ahead of me, all three of them have expired tabs. And so that does have an impact on revenue. So that might be something that WASAC as an association might want to take up with relevant law enforcement agencies and find out why.
At this point, I can't say it's going to be anything substantial, but it's something we're going to keep an eye on. The next slide talks about the recording revenue. Interest rates went up, refinancing went down, and for the last 5 years, we've seen a significantly reduced amount of revenue coming into recording. Until we see some kind of relief in the interest rates, I don't expect that to go up there. It does seem like it's stabilized. We're not seeing any further erosion at this point. But it's, as you can see on the chart, a much lower pace.
Question, Tim and Vicki, on the previous one for auto licensing. Do you have, or does the state have any trend data that shows licensing in person versus online, various options, and if their trend is going more and more online renewals as opposed to in person? I don't know if that data is tracked or shown.
So we can probably run some stats for Spokane County. But with the Department of Licensing, trying to get any stats out of them generally involves a public records request.
I didn't know they produced anything
I
on a
can-
regular basis, but
I can ask.
I mean, most interested for Spokane County, but I didn't know if that's data you guys had or if that had to come from the state themselves.
DOL is trying hard to push people towards online renewal,
I would think so.
which most of the time it's still gonna be us
Yeah.
doing that. But there is a certain demographic that does not want to go online
Yes.
and perform transactions.
Same ones who like to pay their property tax in person.
I would say that is
Yep.
probably that's a subset of ours.
Similar population.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that like so many other entities, there is a service charge for using plastic. So there are some people that extra $2 to $3 has an impact.
Jump ahead one more, please. Going on to the auditor O&M fund, that's historically called the 103 fund. just like we talked about the regular general fund reporting, there's been a significant decrease in the revenue that comes into that fund as well. It all comes from the same fees. Previously, there were 5 staff funded out of that. In the last year or this current year, that dropped to 3. There were a total of 3 people from the clerk's office and 2 from the recording office, Vicky's office, that were funded out of that. That was reduced to 1 from the clerk's office and 2 in the auditor staff this year. And going into 2026, it will just be the 2 reporting staff. Which at that point stabilizes the fund where we won't be drawing down our fund balance. We've gone through a few $100,000 of fund balance last night in our day-to-day operation. In 2026, like the balance is about $390,000 revenue and expense. Wages make up about 135. There's the software maintenance is about 150. We do have indirect costs of about $90,000 that goes back to the general fund, which is almost 25% of our budget. I think during the next year, we're going to want to review that. It seems, in my opinion, significant amount of money when you have 2 FTE that it's covering. That we might need to look at the cost drivers for that and see if that's something that should be allocated elsewhere. It seems awful high for 2 people. On to the next slide for auditor O&M. We did submit a capital request for 2026 to replace the reporting software. In that request, it was estimated to be about $600,000. It's in line with the requests from both the assessor and the treasurer, same software companies that they would all sync up very well. It'd be a huge technological upgrade. It provides new benefits. One is the public protection where people could sign up, and if there's anything recorded against their property, they would get an email notification. There's been a rise in title theft, and so this would allow people to at least be aware if somebody's filing something against their property. I mentioned the integration with the assessor's office. One of the biggest issues is the current vendor is not really meeting the needs of the county. It's one of them. Not only meet, but probably exceed the needs we have. And then it has increased efficiency and operating cost savings. The estimate that we got would be about $20,000 a year less in software maintenance.
This is the one we've talked about with the board, attached along with the momentum.
Yep.
You've discussed previous weeks.
So
And there's a lot of additional features that come with this particular piece of softwares. People could fill their marriage information out online. I mean, if we see reductions in personnel, then we may have to go to doing marriage license issuing based on appointments. Hate to have to do that, but I need to make sure that who's ever sitting in this chair next time has that opportunity to rework some of our services. So that would be one way to save a little bit in the way of staff by going to appointments for issuing licenses. Except for those people in uniform, we will take them at any time. Sometimes they are being deployed and they have less than 24 hours in which to get everything in order, and sometimes for 6 to 12 months. So we'll take care of military personnel.
Was there was a revenue source proposed to pay for that? Was that the licensing?
Yeah. So as you have probably discussed, the $1 million a year potential is to set that aside for technology that we would be the first ones, and I think it's a little bit of the revenue that we're generating that just comes.
next slide, we get into the election budget. As I mentioned before, it's also a general fund budget, but in reality, it has the ability to bill out 100% of its costs. I'm going to that later. Just kind of put down some of the things when you think of elections, and you think like, oh, it happens 4 times a year, but there's ongoing things that are happening all year. It's like you finish one election, you're already jumping on to get ready for the next election, and they're going through voter registration, candidate filing, getting the hundreds of thousands of ballots out in the mail, the voters pamphlets. They got to do all the signature validation, and then when they come in, they're processing and compiling results in a very short window because there's deadlines on when the election has to be certified.
And if anybody brings a petition, then we have to validate those signatures and we do charge jurisdiction for that.
When you go to the next slide, there's basically 6 full-time people plus an extra help crew that can reach up to about 120 people during a general election. Probably not as many this year, but last year we were probably pushing 120 extra help, and it's amazing what the 6 full-time staff can do and organize that many extra help people. It was really impressive to watch being the first general election, major general election I sat. The operating budget, there's some kind of oddities here. When we submitted the budget last year, and in November, everything looked fine. And then in January, February, we peaked the budget and it was about $400,000 less. And we hadn't been made aware of that. So when we look at, do we meet our target for 2026 on the elections? There's 2 different numbers you can look at. There's the 2.62 that the 25 budget was adopted at, or the roughly $3 million that we thought it would be adopted at. And we didn't find out until sometime early this year that happened. So that left us it was just a kind of an arbitrary reduction against salaries. So we have $71,000 in salaries for 6 people this year, which obviously can't happen. So we're having to try and accommodate that through savings in our overall budget. And then we have a $320,000 capital budget this year for a new sorter. It actually is being delivered this morning as I came in. They were pulling it in. We added a sorter last year as well. So up until last year, I don't know how old the prior sorter was, but it was extremely old and we had
2007.
2007, we had 0 redundancy. If it went down, Mike was doing his best MacGyver to put the thing back together and keep us going. These interesting receipts from Home Depot. And I see Mike back there working on it himself to get it going. So now currently we have the new one we installed last year. We kept the existing one, so we had 2 during the general election next year. Hopefully this week and into next week, we'll get the second new one. So we'll have 2 state-of-the-art sorting machines that will allow us to process as fast as we can, meet the deadlines and have the backups should one of them fail. We're not trying to MacGyver to make it.
And our equipment is paid for through a surcharge. So there is a surcharge on every election and on voter registration, and those are charged out to the jurisdiction, including the county. So there is a portion of the county cost that is then transferred into that due. So this really is almost an enterprise operation where we recover our costs. And the way it works for the county as a jurisdiction that we serve is it's just a reduction in revenue. So every time the BOCC puts something on the ballot in an election that it wasn't intended to be on, such as a municipal election this year, it's not necessarily that it increased our costs to run that election, but what it means is it reduces the revenues that are recognized for elections, when really we should be sending you a bill and you should be paying. So just remember that anytime you put something on the ballot, there is a cost to that, but it shows up as a reduction in revenue rather than an increase in cost in some department which has control.
Because it was general fund, I mean, it makes sense to do it that way. Otherwise, we'd be sending you a bill, we'd be moving money from one pocket to the other. So it's recognized through expenses in excess of revenue for that year. And we get into that on the next page, or a couple of pages. I'll talk a little bit more about that. When you look at the next slide, here's the things that are increases compared to the $2.6 million adopted 2025. One is the restoration of the wages that taken out in the current year. And then there are 3 other main items, and I should have put some more detail, but I'll go through it now. When we talk about postage, there's a request for $100,000 increase. In 2024, we spent $870,000 for postage. The request right now is to move the 26 budget from $850 to $950. Postage costs continue. Anything else coming out, it goes up at least 1 year. Printing, 2024, we spent $885,000. The 75 increase would get us up to 850. And then for extra help, the 2025 budget had $200,000, requesting 275. Comparison last year, one of our busiest years, we spent 350. So and we can send that information out. I can update that slide since the commission, just so you can put in perspective where how these increases line up with what we've been seeing historically. So if you have any further questions, once you see that data, feel free to let us know. Those are the main things that would put the budget for 2026 at $3.3 million.
We talked about this one. We talked about how 26 is the biggest cost year for elections. The statewide candidates go in the presidential years. So they're not paying their piece of the pie because they're not on the ballot, where all of our countywide, such as the auditor, as well as 2 of our commissioners are on.
Judges.
So just the way the formula works, it's our biggest year of county candidates. It's the smallest year of statewide candidates. Municipal elections generally run in the odd number years. And so when you just look at who's on the ballot, common sense in my mind, I assume presidential years would be the most expensive, but the state actually covers a lot of the presidential costs now. So it is what we call the midterms, the national midterms, that are the most expensive for us.
To the county in total for the total expenses, then the president last year was was the highest one in total, but very small percentage of that was paid for by the county. And for the midterm, it's going to be the biggest part that the county doesn't have offsetting revenue from other jurisdictions. I'll show a slide on that, a couple slides down. The next slide just talks about the expenses in general, and I mentioned before over on the other departments, it was 92% wages and benefits. Here it's about 70% M&O, and that goes back to the postage, the voter pamphlets, the direct mail services. That's 85% of that $2.3 million. And then in wages and benefits, I mentioned before, there's about $1 million. Last year, we spent about $350,000 in extra help. This year, we'll probably spend less than 200 because it's a lighter year. But next year, we're looking closer to 275. It's still below the presidential year, but it's a pretty significant amount.
And as Commissioner Cuny knows only too well, there's 3 distinct cycles in an elections operation, which is why we're not just kind of even or slightly increasing. So we've got the presidential, which is almost always the most expensive year. Then there's the other even year, as Jeff was talking about, where it's the state and county elections, the partisan elections, but without the president. And then in every 4 years, there's 2 years, the odd years, that are the municipal elections. And so usually those costs are a little bit lower. But it's also a matter of the revenues. In odd numbered years, if the county doesn't put anything on a ballot, most of it's going to be paid for by the municipalities. In even years, the county is going to absorb a great deal of those costs. So for elections, when you look at it, you've got the expense side that varies and the revenue side that varies. So you cannot compare year to year. You have to compare side to side. Unfortunately, costs are going up. As Tim mentioned, postage is continuing to climb. And print costs are starting to go up also. And we are now required to print a voter's pamphlet and distribute. So that over the last couple of years has added additional, substantially.
Solving state laws requiring these things.
Yes. So
So the elections overage is a significant overage, but in our view, there are choices around it. It's just the way the cycle falls, postage increases, it's all stuff beyond influence control.
At a minimum, we're gonna have 3 elections a year. We could have 5. So in a year we have fewer elections, the overall costs that get allocated out might be more, but the extra help is the big fluctuating factor. That was a good lead into the next slide about the revenue. You can see the gaps where it shows the delta between revenue and expense. So like 2024 presidential year was our highest cost year, but almost 100% of that was recouped from other agencies. When you look at 2026, because of like what Jeff described, we have all of the independent electeds, we have a couple of commissioners, we have the judges. There's a huge component of that we can't bill to other jurisdictions, and that becomes the amount that if the county were a separate entity, we would send it. And then if you look 4 years prior, that was a large gap there. I don't know what happened in 2020 when there's a large gap.
Grants,
Oh,
we got some grants.
uh, So other than, I think we've pretty much covered it. Going on to the next slide, just kind of recapping what we talked about. The FTE, we're down a total of 6 positions from several years ago. At one point, we're all filled and utilized. For the general fund departments exclusive of elections, there's about 212,000 reductions, which will get us in about $5,000 below the target of the 2025 adopted budget. Licensing revenues up, reporting revenue down. It's the 5th consecutive year of reporting revenue being down. On the auditor O&M, the fund is stable now, where it was leaked pretty heavily the last couple of years. And then we have the capital request for the software upgrade. Going back to elections, a little bit of a recap. You know, we consider it more like an enterprise fund. You really can, a lot of 100% of your costs. We don't build the county, as I said, moving money from one pocket to the other. The county will consume a larger portion of the elections expenses in 2026. And then just a recap of the 4 major items that would push the 26 budget up about $600,000 from where it was. That's last.
So when you're adjusting the elections part of the budget, do you need money up front or do you have a reserve fund?
Upfront,
Okay,
we're just like any other.
and then you
department.
bill out.
Mhm.
We get most of our money in,
So yeah,
even into January, people will be paying for the general election, January, February. We accrue it back.
right.
Right, sometimes it doesn't. By the time Mike gets all the costs tallied and allocated, sometimes the bills aren't going out until the end of December.
So
And the
the,
same thing for voter registration. So voter registration goes at the end of the year. You need to compile all the cost throughout the year, and then that is billed to the municipalities and the county.
so that 670 increase, eventually we'll see that come back, but it might be in the next year's budget. So it's always
yeah.
rolling is my point.
Everything that we're billing out will come back to us. And elections is one of the few where if they don't pay, we can issue a notice to the treasurer and just take their money, which we haven't had to do, thank goodness.
Because of the spread in this year's elections. For 2026, let's say this year, a portion of it, because the county is a higher consumer of elections, so not all 600 of that.
Right, okay. Portion of that is the county's
Correct.
portion.
The auditor's office.
They come up, we're always happy to follow up with any other information. And I will forward some of that information I provided about those 3 major things in elections, what was spent last year, it's currently budgeted this year, and how that compares. Question. Thank you.
And we got it done in under 30 minutes.
You did. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Happy Monday.
Just by way of additional information. We were at a point in 11, 12, 13, where we had to borrow money to make payroll. That's how bad it was. Had to borrow money to make payroll.
So no reserve.
You know, no reserve to talk about. So in fact, our credit rating was at risk being dropped.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, and we will let you go ahead and get started with your presentation.
We'll just jump right in then. Thank you. Thanks for having us down. Ron, we can go to the next slide, please. So basically just talking about, we have 45 full-time employees right now. That is kind of in the process of switching around some.
a little too early still in the process to be able to give a definitive answer where we're gonna end up. We have met with the budget office quite a bit as well as HR. We've got a number of different things in the fire. I hope you all realize that pretty much every time there's an opening in our department, we look at it. We look at what the best use of the funds are for not just our department, but for the taxpayers of the county too. Make sure we're giving them the best service we can. Next slide. We are eliminating one commercial position. That will happen next year through retirement. And then we also have already eliminated one assistant appraisal supervisor position. Due to a retirement. So we are taking steps to try to keep things going. The other thing that is not on here that we have done is that you guys approved us to have a data analyst for when we get our new system. We aren't quite ready with even moving forward with the new system yet, so we have held off on filling that position. So that money is still sitting out there also. And we will need it once the new system is going in. But for right now, it just didn't make sense to get the cart too far behind for the horse, so.
You guys approved the momentum that you had started on.
Right.
Position.
So at this point in time, according to everything we're being told by the budget office and by our numbers, we will be on target. We don't need any additional funding. We are going to replace all of our iPads, and that's just because they're 5 years old now for our Camera Cloud, but we have a refund fee that is set up through law to be able to use for technology. So we're using that to purchase those. We did have pretty much everything we do is mandated by law. But we did have a program that were purchasing called TrueRoll, which did verifications on our senior exemption program. So in other words, if they had a home in another state or their voting record was in another state, that it would tell us that. That really isn't mandatory right now. And so we have canceled that currently. Would love to get that back in the future. It's about $11,000 a year. So it's not a ton, but really that was the only discretionary contract we really have. So we are, again, like I said, when anytime we have an opening, we are looking at how can we be more efficient? How can we do a better job? How can we get the job done? And yet still, again, be able to serve our citizens. This is our biggest challenge. The next page is we are looking at some new technology. Again, I've got handouts for you on this. It will uses LiDAR and camera imaging, basically like Google Street View. Only this one with the LiDAR, we are actually able to even measure off of. And so it will do a number of things. Number one, it will require that we won't have to have as many appraisers out physically inspecting properties. It will also allow for my staff to be safer, because we have had many incidences where they've been threatened when they're out. So, and it's just better use of some money. And the initial bid we got on this, we felt was very reasonable. We're still in the process of, we have to change around some of our inspection cycles and things to that effect to make it be usable in a practical sense. But this is kind of cutting edge. There's a number of counties already in Washington that are using it. I've talked to the Department of Revenue. Between that and our aerial imaging, it would qualify as our physical site inspection for properties. We figured about 60% of the properties in the county, we could have this. Doesn't do us any good to send this up to Elk, because all you're going to get a picture of is a gate. But there are enough already improved areas. We think this will be very advantageous for us. And again, it's kind of seems to be the trend of the future for assessors offices nationwide, so. And then the last one, we talked Friday about or last week about the new construction. I'm happy to announce we certified this morning and it's actually up just a little bit. So it's 1.47 billion now, so about $15 million. So. And with that, I am open to questions.
I guess one question, if this is something you guys are looking to go to, does it reduce your FT? I mean, like,
It
What's
would,
that
it wouldn't be
cost?
immediate. Just like feeling out period even, but yeah, we think, actually, we were just talking in the other room, maybe up to even four FTEs and hopefully just with true attrition.
and then, are other counties in the state using it or?
Yes, actually, the one that I've talked to the most is Clark County. Down there, where they're actually using that company. There are two different companies that we found so far that do a similar thing, so.
It does, it shoots a photo every every 15 feet. I think. Is that what it is? Every 15
I
feet?
think it says
6
5
photos at a time.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but we do think that there would be cross use of different agencies who might be able to use that same technology. Some of this LiDAR is just amazing technology. Does low points on sites and things of that nature, so I don't know if some cross
I've
jurisdiction.
talked to building planning a little bit about it already and also with the sheriff. Their contracts would be county contracts, so any of our agencies could use it.
So once,
Okay.
once it shoots the image, then that image is stored
In the cloud.
in the cloud.
Yep.
We have access.
Yep.
I mean, would it-
That's what I've had IT involved in the meetings and they don't really feel there's any issues with that.
okay, and then I guess it's like, could you attach that image to Scout then?
That will be done basically through an AI that they have available. They will try to grab the best centered picture or however we want it. If we want it shooting at an angle or if we want it straight on, the company will pick that and send it to us, yes, in a file. So we will still have it in Scout and in our Momentum.
Interesting.
Since you've been in office, you've done an incredible job of transforming that department, creating technology and the processes and everything. I'm just
Thank you.
want to congratulate you on all the work that you've done. And I'm going to ask you a question. I don't want an answer. I want you to think about it.
Okay.
But I've got growing concern that we're not going to hit our numbers this year. And so if there's a function that your office does that is not statutorily required, can you drop it? And how much would that save and stuff? So don't answer now. I
Yeah.
just want you to think about, if we get to a situation where we really got to do a deeper cut, what does that look like?
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. We've talked about similar,
Yeah.
horrible
Horrible
things that
thing.
could happen. So,
None of us want to be there.
yeah, I understand. I appreciate you giving me the heads up so I can plan, or at
Yeah.
least have a hopefully not a contingency plan that doesn't have to happen. So,
What was the time frame on looking at the software?
I think we're, just,
Evaluate that.
a bit
we're
of
like
ways off.
kicking the tires right now,
Yeah, just still kick.
Okay,
but probably at the soonest 2 years. It will take us a good close to a year probably to get our act together with our inspection cycles. Unfortunately, most counties around have working just a geographic inspection cycle. We never did that. We just, if we added a neighborhood, we put it in and whatever inspection cycle we wanted it to be in, it was. So our map looks kind of like hopscotch all over the place. So we need to get it more geographic based. So it's cycled through the county. So we're working on that. Joe and Frank especially are working a lot on supervisors to get that evened out, but it looks like they're making great progress.
I think it would be, as we transition to that as well, communication to when we're gonna be out in the field in the geographic based area. We'd be able to put it on Scout, expect our staff to be out in this geographic area. it's not the way it is right now. It's kind of all over, and I think that we're at a time where, you know, we're gonna have to revise this 6-year plan that we're on. So we've talked to the DOR on that. They're, you know, receptive to the changes. If it makes sense of taking advantage of the technology that exists, but we have to do that in first. So it's, yeah, we're probably a few years out, but at the very least, I think we need.
There will be some inspections that have to be doubled up. To get back on, because we are required to physically inspect once every 6 years.
It would also Camacloud, which you guys are familiar with. There would be less of a demand in
Right.
having all these Camacloud devices as well, so there could be a bit of an offset there. We're still gonna need some to inspect, but not as many, so there might be an offset for those Camacloud licenses we need out in the field. We need as many, so there could be some offsets there as well. So
Something's there too.
I'm interested to, to see as you guys progress with this and research it more. I see that it highlights some of the public safety
Right.
uses, disaster preparedness, flood mitigation, emergency response. It seems like something that could be very valuable across the county. So
We really think that too.
yeah, I'm interested in learning more. That's
Good.
awesome.
We'll keep you posted as we progress.
Just to clarify, so the 4 point, you're saying you think you'll hit the flat, but.
Yes. Yes. Don't cut it anymore, but yes, I think we can hit the flat budget.
Thank you.
No other questions?
Anybody else?
Okay,
Super.
very good.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. You guys have a hard job.
Making it easy.
See you later.
So it sounds like the treasurer is running late, so we're gonna have to have the clerk go next. Is he?
And like 3 minutes ago, he said he'd be here in 5. We just heard he's got put on the treasurer's calendar on time. So he was planning on being here at 10:30 instead of 10. So he's coming in, but Tim Fitzgerald said he'd be right down. You will notice the assessor's budget on the paper shows it being over budget. They had another unexpected. I don't think it was retirement. I think it was somebody took a different job outside the county, but with that attrition, that would bring the budget. So that will self-resolve if you were looking on paper and wondering what that disconnect was.
That was the assessor. or-
The assessor,
That's why I asked the question.
The recent,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
originally they were gonna come in with an ask. But with that retirement or well, attrition, between that and as he's looking to this new technology that he just talked about, he says probably the next couple of years, they will not be replacing assessors. He thinks the timing will be about right as it comes online, as people retire and move on, it should naturally produce some savings there. Then while the treasurer's coming, the clerk is coming, 1:30 today from budget standpoint has been canceled unless you guys need the time for other conversations. Detention has spent a lot of time on their budget, both internally and with Scott, myself, Sparber and others. And when we met last week, everybody concurred there's just some more work that needs to be done. Some of the things aren't coming together the way we hoped. So we're gonna move that one out. Unless we get somebody else that needs to move out and we can get it in earlier, it'll probably come October 6th. We'll look for detention. That day we had some internal conversations where the budget office would lead. We can just move those back. For detention at that point.
Shortly, and this is a question for you, Matt. Are we required to maintain all of our jail beds in an open situation, or if we wanted to close a wing, could we do that? Or could we close the floor and do that because of budgetary constraints? It reduces, I understand it reduces the capacity of the jail. But it also reduces a significant amount of our budget constraint and stuff, so we talked about that one time, but we never did it, because it's clearly a public safety issue, but I can't remember whether we didn't do it because of statutory requirements or whether we didn't do it because we just public safety.
So Barbara just raised her hand, so Mike?
Yep, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, super. So in closing down the wings, we have our contracts that we have to obligate, and that's with the contracting agencies, the city, the valley, and the surrounding cities. When we talk about cutting, closing down a wing, those are some of the considerations that we have right now in the budget, but it would be in relation to some available bed space that we would try to garner from the low capacity that we have right now and some of the Geiger residents.
There's some of the analysis that's going on to bring to you guys.
Okay, so they are looking at that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we present, you'll see some options, Commissioner French.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
You bet.
Short answer, statutorily, we have the obligation to hold felonies. We have contracts with other agencies, with Department of Corrections, US Marshals. As we have available space, we have contracts with all of our jurisdictions to hold their misdemeanor population. Statutorily, it's felonies.
Our contracts with the jurisdictions is not I'm asking the question, I should have rephrased I apologize for that. Is our contract with the jurisdictions predicated upon an obligation to house them, or is it predicated upon a number that we have to hold for them?
Either it's predicated upon, we have a contract that says we will hold your misdemeanors to the extent that we have space.
So there is that qualifier.
Whether it's implicitly called out or we also have the ability to change the terms of the contracts as well. We have provisions in there, renewal, termination provisions, that sort of stuff, but we don't have a statutory obligation. We have a contractual obligation until we change the terms of the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Does that kind of answer what you're looking
Yeah.
for?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, clerk, for changing your time.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Should I go ahead and get started?
Yeah, let's
All right, well-
get started.
Thank you, Ron. You can find our presentation, put that baby up. Well, good morning, commissioners. We got a very straightforward, easy brief for you. Bottom line up front, we met our target budget. And that's what we'll just present today. Ron, next slide. Okay, you got it. Thank you. So you look at an overview right now. My budget was set, my target budget was $4,651,000. So the cut was about $352,365. That's what I had to do. My FTEs are 64 and a half people. I am normally a fully staffed office. As you can see by your charts up there, 23 and 24, I was fully staffed, one vacancy in 24. In 25, it shows 4 vacancies. These are deliberate, intentional vacancies that we had to do. Mainly because I don't want to give out pink slips. I refuse to do that. I have never had to do that before. And in addition, with the Becca cut, we didn't have funding to cover our clerk for the rest of this year, because that funding stopped at the end of July, and I still need a clerk in the juvenile section. So with these vacancies, we're able to use that money to cover the clerk all the way to the end of July. So that's why we sit with 4 vacancies. These are intentional.
I wanted to point out, there's not really an FTE increase the way the chart shows. You recall when the auditor was in here, she talked about the clerk used to be in the 103 fund.
Yeah.
So that's just movement from the 103 fund to the general fund. No new FTEs, just a change of paying source.
Right. So as I sit here right now, I'm briefing you, I'm at 60.5 people. So I'm 4 down. Okay. To reach our target budget, like most of the offices you're probably going to hear from today, it's 96% people, 4% M&O. So it's all people. So I have some disparities, some difference in pay ranges and pay grades. So what I have here is these 3 positions were the ones that were vacant this year for retirement.
One person went to law school, which I think is great. I think that's awesome. They went to law school, so we have a vacancy there. One person retired, and then the other position, the person resigned. So these 3 positions I chose not to fill. They're unfunded at the moment, and they're unfilled positions right now. They're a judicial proceedings clerk for the courtroom. It is a second judicial proceedings clerk for the courtroom. I'll talk more about that later. And then it's one of my admin support specialists in archives. I can't go after all the $50,000 salary positions because I'll never get there. It'll take me about 9 people to get there. So that's why you had to use some judicial proceeding clerks. They're my second highest paid in the office. And those positions were vacant, so there's no pink slips. So these 3 positions right now are vacant. We currently have them in a budget now, but we will not budget for them in 2026. So these 3 positions will stay vacant all through 2026. It's about a $200,000 cut on our way to $352,000. Ron, next slide, please. In addition to those 3 positions, we came up with a creative idea. Restricted funds are nothing new, but it's new for us in our office. We're removing these 2 positions out of the general fund for 2026. And they'll not be funded by the general fund. So I'll put me 5 positions now out of the general fund. These 2 positions will go into the restricted fund if or when the Board of County Commissioners approves me to have a restricted fund. This is not a done deal until you authorize it to happen.
You'll recall a month or so ago, we talked about this new fee that the clerks, countywide or statewide clerks have lobbied for in Olympia. The funding is coming in. You gave us the head nod to start it as a restricted fund. So we're working with Auditor Lee Dalton's office to bring the resolution before you that would do that. And then if you continue down that pathway and approve it, those funds would go there and pay for these positions.
So we got a $5 surcharge on case type 2, all civil cases. Case type 3, all family law cases, case type 4 or probate and guardianship, and some case type 5s for adoption and paternity. So a $5 charge for every filing on any cases like that. We get 2,200 filings a day, so this is not that bad. I mean, I'd like to have more than $5, but $5 is what it is. This is a waivable fee. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. In addition, IT ran a program where we had law firms sign up for contracts at $275 a year to access our legal records and make copies prepaid. IT gave that contract to us. We will run that program and we will put that money also into the restricted fund. That money's never gone into the general fund. It always stayed with IT. Now it will stay with us, and that'll be the second revenue source that will go into this restricted fund. So looking at that amount of money, these are the 2 positions that we have decided to put into the restricted fund. Archive specialist, because it meets the requirement of our records. So we do the contracts. You have a person that handles contracts. So that person, these are the actual 2026 salary and benefits, what we actually will have to pay out. So that position will go into the restricted fund, as will the processor. Why am I putting a processor in there? Because I made a promise to you over a year ago when you gave me that extra body in processing to cut continuances by 1/3. We have cut continuances by 1/3. That's why the process is not on an unfilled position. I need to fill it so we can keep that cut of continuances still going. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the restricted fund on a special slide to give you a little more information on that. This is another 111,000, so I'm around 311,000 now in cuts on our way to 352,000. Ron, next slide, thank you. We had 3 retirements this year. Both they're at step 11, 12, and 13. We hired step 1. That's a $12,000, $16,000 savings in general fund salaries. So we will not need that additional salary funding next year because the jobs are lower. They're lower paid. So that was a $16,000 saving, plus it's higher than that actually, but that's $16,000 there. So that was the last of the personnel cuts. That put me at about 26,800 short. And I compensated that with O&M. We took out $15,000 in our dependency publications because the Attorney General's office is supposed to start paying for advertising in January 1st of 2026. I looked through the budget, all 1,385 pages of the state budget, and here we're given $1 million to do this. So they have $1 million to pay for all 39 county dependency publications, and we shouldn't have to be doing it.
You put them on notice.
We put them on notice. So I cut, but I left 5,000 in there just in case. And then we cut our professional services because we think we're not gonna need that much. So that was a $26,000 O&M cut. Simply put, that's my personnel, that's my M and O cuts. We totaled 352,368. I need to cut 352,365. So Jeff, you owe me $3.
Nice. I'll get coffee.
All right. Not a Starbucks, you're going. $3. All right, so we're under the target budget. Next slide. Okay, this is a restricted fund, give you an idea about the restricted fund. So that $5 on the filings, Josh and I computed it. We should collect about $20,000 this year. And then Jeff and I will work out how that money gets transferred in again, once you approve that fund. Next year, it should be $40,941 we should collect. This is based off of a built-in 40% fee waiver. So I'm assuming the court is gonna waive 40% of this. So this is already built in. These numbers are that 40% built in. If they waive more than 40%, then those two numbers will go lower. But I think 40% is pretty high, so I think we're in a reasonable position. All right, the court document viewer contract is $35,100 each year, paid in October. So we get paid in October this year, and we get paid in October next year. So all added up, that's $131,000, and now we need $111,000. So I think we're pretty good in the restricted fund. Any questions on your restricted fund? Again, with the understanding that we will get the 2025 fee funding that's coming already, that'll be given back to us. And I'll work that out with DSL.
Is $5 the maximum you can charge?
That's the maximum. That's it. It's only, it's right, it's in statute, it's $5.
With regard to other fees in your office, are you sitting at the max in the other fees as well?
Yeah, we have right by RCW, all our fees are maxed out. We did talk to the legislature about maybe changing some fees. There's no appetite to do that right now. So our fees are already set on what, for example, a divorce, you want to file for divorce is $314. And you're gonna add 65 on top of it. So it's gonna get
That's small compared to the loss. of the
That's
house,
small,
kids,
yeah.
Everything else.
Well, that's small compared to, some of the other fees that other folks have. Ours are pretty low, but they haven't changed in 20 years, but the legislature's kind of interested in changing. We started off with a $25 surcharge. By the time we got through committee and the end of the vote, it was $5. Oh,
So, you do a great job. You're one of the most diligent folks on the campus and stuff. So I really compliment you on your work. But I'm not confident that we're gonna hit our target. And so I'm gonna ask you a question. I don't want an answer. I want you to just think about it. But if we get to a point to where we've got to make a bigger cut, if we've got to a point where there's something that we wanted to do, that we'd like to do, but we're not statutorily required to do, we had to let go of. What would that mean for your department and stuff? And so seriously, I don't want you to answer now. I'm asking the same question of all the department heads. Because I'm just got a real growing concern that we're not gonna hit the target. So if we have to dig, where do we dig and what does that mean for you?
yeah, for me, I can answer right now. It would have to be another person, another position. Because I cut my M and O right now, my total M and O is $173,000. I am right on the edge with
So
M
it's
and O. so I
it's not
can't-
a program, it's a person.
It's a person.
Got it.
Right. I mean, okay. If things got so bad across everybody across the board, we could cut an $80,000 program, which is electronic filing, but that's gonna send us backwards.
Yeah.
That will cause a lot of problems across the entire legal community, not just our office, but everybody that files electronically. That we're at 23% already. And we're already talking to the Bar Association about making it mandatory for the attorneys from now on to electronically file. And that will ease a lot of our challenges. Again, we get 2,200 documents filed a day right now. So I hate to cut that one. That would be a problem because juvenile Tori is also using it to alleviate one of her lost positions because we electronically file and the Attorney General's office does everything in dependencies, our heaviest load in the juvenile case 7 and 8, all done electronically. Everything's electronic.
Thank you.
Tim, you've talked for several years about making it mandatory to do electronic filing. Why isn't it mandatory yet?
Our biggest concern is we want buy-in and agreement from the Bar Association. I don't want there to be a problem as we try to coordinate, make this happen. Additionally, the past couple of years, there are kinks in the program. We want to make sure all the kinks are worked out before I make it mandatory, because I don't want someone to come back and say to me, you made it mandatory and your system was not really 100%. And then the one more caveat was about a year and a half ago, Tyler told the district courts and municipal courts that they were going to have to do e-filing through the Odyssey. Tyler is our state case management system.
Okay.
So we put everything in Tyler, but we go through our document management system first. We have our own system. But 22 counties statewide of 39 had the Tyler document management system as directed by the state. We just pushed back and said, no, we're not doing it. They created an e-filing system. They were going to charge $5 per bundle. And then they got sued by the Washington State Bar Association, saying you cannot make us e-file when your system has not been tested or validated. So we watched that happen. We said, oh, we're gonna make sure we're 100% good with our electronic payment system and everything that we have in place. There'd be no questions that they could sue us.
Now, did they sue because they were gonna make them e-file?
Yes.
Or that they were gonna make them e-file and charge them that
They were both.
$5 fee?
Oh, they're gonna charge them and make them e-file. The charging, I believe, was the bigger issue
Okay,
for them. Charge was a bigger complaint they had. We don't charge, but I think we can down the road. I think
Okay.
it's a viable revenue source down the road, once we make sure everybody's been using it for a while. I think we could put a small charge on it to pay for the system itself.
so are any counties in Washington mandatory e-filing?
Yes, King, Pearson, Snohomish, and King, Pearson, Snohomish don't charge.
Okay,
They're free.
Okay.
There are 6 of us that have a true e-filing system in the entire state. True e-filing, not email attachments and things like that, but an actual e-filing system.
so if King, Pearson, Snohomish are there already,
They're already, I
When-
think it's
when do you
Kitsap.
think when do we get there with our bar association to where Spokane County will be?
Well, we're
100%?
we're there, I don't know.
Cause I, if I remember, I think in years past you had said when we reach a certain percentage of
Yes,
people that are, you said we're at 23%.
we reached that this year.
There.
That was the cutoff, 23%.
It was.
Yeah, so we've reached it now. Josh has been running the numbers. We run about 42,000 cases filed a month. And 23% of those as of right now are electronically filed. So we're at the point now, we're gonna sit down with the bar and say, this is what we'd like to do. Give us some feedback, maybe do a survey like we did when we went to e-filing in the first place. And get some feedback from them, and just so we're all on the same sheet.
And King and Snohomish use different filing systems than we do. And at the end of 2024, there was the whole state shutdown of the judicial filing. So ensuring
I
that
want to talk
everything
about that
that
too.
we had to ensure that we didn't face any additional liabilities when introducing something new, put back some of our projects.
And digital archive, I'll talk more about that in a second. That, I want to tag that on. That is my final modernization project. I want to talk about that. We've been doing that this 6 months. So that's why we haven't gone back and really pursued the bar yet. Okay, so any questions from any of the commissioners or anybody in the, on the restricted fund or how to?
Just backing up a little bit, the 11,798 MO professional services. You feel like that doesn't reduce anything you need significantly to
No.
make that work?
We think that works. We're on something unusual pops up. I mean, I use I use Matt's office all the time when we have issues, so he's helping me with an issue right now that we're being sued on protection orders, and the guy's wrong, but we'll sort all that out later. Okay, so some final thoughts I put together. Again, 96% salary, as you will hear from other offices. So Commissioner French, your question for us, you know, myself, probably I won't speak for the treasurer, we're probably in the same boat as is the auditor and assessor, it's people, because we don't have a lot of O&M. We are sitting at the 4 vacant positions, and that's where we'll stay all through next year. We did lose that position in the 103 fund. That's been slid over to the general fund. Some good news. After 10 years, we've convinced the legislature to fund us properly for our legal financial obligation program. What that means for you all in this room is I have funding to cover one of my 2 people. The 134 restricted fund covers the second person. Mapping it out, the 134 fund is slowly going down. It will never increase. It will continue to decline before it hits zero because all the funding that used to go into it has been legislatively removed. So it's just a depleting fund. But we can maintain these two positions for the next 3 years, starting 1 January 2026. So, but that funding that the state gave us enabled us to do that. Blake is a really good news story for our county. We've done a great job with Blake. We've done all that requirement. We've been reimbursed by the state for the tune of $192,318. So none of that money came out of, well, I guess taxpayers paid, beyond was the state, but that didn't come out of the county general fund. All that overtime the state paid for. That was $192,000, and we have reimbursed or redirected to Activell for those $831,000 for defendants that meet that criteria. So we've done a pretty good job with Blake. That's one of our success stories. As Josh was mentioning, that court network shutdown was really a big deal. It really was. The entire state was shut down electronically for 40 days, and no one could do anything electronically. You couldn't even access the record. But my team kept the record available so the courts could stay open, everybody could do their jobs. And they did a really good job with that. So all through December, we were shut down. They opened us back up after AOC fixed the problem. They opened it all back up in Thanksgiving. From Thanksgiving to Christmas, my team entered 56,000 backlog documents while still getting 2,200 documents a day, and nobody even noticed. You didn't see a bump in the system. You didn't see a shutdown in the system. I have a great team. That's why losing some people is a killer to me. But I have a great team. I just want you guys to know that, the team upstairs in the clerk's office is a really good team. They do a really good job. That is indicative of the great job they do. No one even noticed that. I tell you this because we are a pretty lean office now. We are pretty modernized. And we've done a lot that we can to make things as good as we can. Some of you do need to know, we get paid by DSHS to handle a lot of their cases throughout the year. They base it on employees in the office. So with the 4 vacancies, we're going to lose about $17,000 that come into the general fund next year from DSHS. So we normally make $306,000 a year from them. Subtract $17,000 from that. That's what we're going to lose. I did have a great conversation with Tessa and purchasing. We were able to retain the mail clerk. We're going to split that mail clerk, she and I, half and half. So we'll keep that position. It'll just be split between the 2 offices. You got the Becca fund. You've heard that ad nauseum, so you know what the deal behind that is. The reason that clerk is important because I have 3 courtrooms that run in juvenile. So I got to have 3 clerks in juvenile. There's no way around that. Commissioner Kearns, back to your question. So we just completed in the process or are completing our 11th modernization project. This is our final one. This is it. This is digital archives. We are moving our entire legal record to digital archives. The reason for that is it eliminates storage space for the record here in the county. Digital archives will maintain the record. People can go to digital archives, look the record up, then they pay digital archives for copies. So we're not running around trying to pay for copies and make copies and mail copies. Digital archives will do that for us. And then by law, they had to send us the revenue. So this is a great setup. It's a total of 10 million legal documents that have to be transferred. So a shout out to IT. They've done a magnificent job helping us transfer the 10 million documents over to digital archives. We should be up and running a week, 2 weeks. No,
Couple weeks.
Couple weeks. Okay. Couple weeks. We're gonna test it too, because we gotta make sure all confidential and sealed documents are not available. That cannot be.
So Tim, if someone was to go up to your office today, almost 10 years ago, we don't see all those boxes of paper and all of that there.
No, that's all gone. We eliminated stuffing. We don't stuff anymore. So all that overtime is gone. Stuffing, you take the documents and stick them into the legal file because the court still use the legal file and not the electronic file. But again, the court's been working with us because they're using electronic file now, which is good news for us.
Kind of process, but thank you for spearheading that and making it happen.
I appreciate that. Now, I said, I have a great team. They've done just a really good job. So those are my final thoughts, just to let you know kind of where we sit at right now. And Commissioner French, I heard what you said. I did have an ask anyways. I'll just throw it out there anyways. So, right. So this would be my should available funding come available. Should that happen? I'd like to put a pitch in. We'd like to get that admin support specialist back first. And the reason I picked that first and not a court clerk is because that admin support specialist is in the restricted fund. And the restricted fund, it's not guaranteed. That revenue is not guaranteed. And I don't want to lose that position because then that would put me down to just 2 people in archives. And archives handles all our exhibits, all the records, everything like that. So I can't afford to do that. So I got to keep at least 3 people in there. So that's why I'm asking for that position back first. Should there be extra funding, and if there's additional extra funding, let me get 1 courtroom clerk back of the 2 that I'm leaving vacant. And the reason behind that again is that there are 21 judicial officers. We run 21 dockets or courtrooms a day. And right now I'm sitting at 23 clerks. So I don't have a lot of flexibility. And if I'm not in the courtroom, the court can't hold a hearing. So I'm kind of putting them in a tight spot too. So if I get 3 clerks out on FMLA vacation or 1 sick, then we'll send a manager in, which we do. Managers will go in and clerk the court for them. I clerk court over at district court. We have visiting judges. But we'll do that if we have to, but it's just makes it a little bit tight. So should there be that option, if there's any funding available, those would be my 2 requests, starting with the $50,000 position first, and then the court clerk second. And that is it. Last slide. Yeah, you've already seen all that stuff, so you don't need to see that. Any questions?
So where would this put, so just to make sure, where does this put your full your FTE count if we calculated everything that you proposed? Is that the 64?
That would be 60.5.
Or I'm sorry, 60.5.
It'd be 4 vacancies.
Okay.
Which we would actually remove in 26, since we're not funded. If the funding came from some source, we put it back in at that.
Okay, so. Okay, cause the sheet we have. You're sitting at 63, so this would bring you down to the 60.5.
Correct. The sheet you have
Okay.
does not have 1 position in it because that position was in the 103 fund. So
Got
it's a
it.
separate fund. So it actually would reflect 64.5 positions if you were to count the 103 fund.
Okay,
And then you subtract the 4 positions, we're down to 60.5.
okay. I'm just trying to see where you'd be at over the last 6 years, because I know our sheet shows, I mean, you're up 10 FTEs since 2019.
I have no argument there.
yeah.
I have come in and asked for people
Yeah.
past several years, and you have given me people.
Yep.
So I have no complaints about that.
Okay. All right.
For example, I asked you for a couple of processes to create that protection orders team, but that thing's been a lifesaver, as I promised you it would be. That's been saving our bacon with 44 protection orders a day. Those 2 people you gave me 3 years ago do nothing but protection orders all day long. That's all they do. So I think that was a good decision you made on that one. Because if you miss a protection order and something happens, that would be a major liability problem for us. So any questions? I think I got about 2 minutes left.
We're good.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Mike, I got the seat warm for you.
Do I go down to the hot seat?
Yeah, you get to go to the hot seat.
Huh?
Get to go to the hot seat.
You guys just received this presentation from Gina probably a half hour, 40 minutes ago. So it would be in your inbox.
Okay, well, thank you. Everybody's messed up on timing, so happy you guys are here and ready to go.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Glad to be here, and I apologize that for commissioners. It looked like we got our wires crossed over on our end. So first of all, I want to thank Jeff and his team doing a fantastic job on helping us guide us through the budget, and especially with the new implementation of a new system. Really appreciate all their hard work. done getting this to where we're going. I think unlike Tim's, my budget is pretty straightforward. We have about 2.5 million in salary and benefits. So we do have a pretty healthy O&M of 780,000, but a very, very small, I would say less than 50,000 of that is actually discretionary spending. We have much control, but we have much influence over. The biggest piece, for example, is printing and postage. We're statutorily required to do things like mail out tax statements. So we don't have a lot of influence. We can't decide we're going to cut that in half or reduce that by 10%. In fact, that had a pretty significant impact this year on our budget. In addition to holding the line, we also had about a $38,000 increase in postage, which we don't control, the U.S. Postal Service. So our expected budget was right now is 275,000, and our target was 3,278,000. So we're about $2,800 under our target as we sit today, and we feel pretty comfortable with our plan. First of all, real quick, in the treasurer's office, we have the general fund budget, which is our biggest piece. I also have a fully discretionary revolving account for maintaining the investment activities, which does not require board action. I have the same thing for foreclosure and distraint. If you don't know what distraint is, it's foreclosure of personal property. So those are separate buckets under the authority of the treasurer, and these are revolving funds. There's also a small little fund out there that we haven't really tapped into much for, like personnel, which is the biggest part of our budget, but that's the E-REIT fund. We get a little bit of money for E-REIT technology fund, so it's very specific. Each one of these funds, I can't go put half of the office in, Fund 107, which is our investment fund, and I think the state auditors will let that pass. So they're very prescriptive on what activities I can put in there, but there is some flexibility in that. In fact, a few years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, the state auditors audited what treasurers were doing with their investment administrative fund, and a lot of them, we started getting emails popping up saying, oh my God, we're getting in trouble because we did this, we did that. And so we called them up. John Christina was at the time the investment officer. He called up the state auditors and we're like, do we have a problem? He goes, you guys aren't even close to what some of the other counties. So there was a pattern out there where they were shifting costs out to these funds, and a lot of them got a little slap on the wrist. They said we're not even close. So anyway, so that's the basic overview of where we sit on the budget and kind of how the moving parts in my office work on the budget side. Next slide, please. So this is the O&M and M&O. This is only the ones that change. The rest of them are, I didn't show the whole list of them. I think you have that in your packet. Most of them didn't change. The postage is an increase of $38,000. We can't control that. And then office supplies, we bumped up a little bit. Unemployment insurance went up. We don't control that. PTO cash out is a guess. We don't know who's going to retire and how much they're going to have in balance. So we don't really control that. And then the printing piece went up a little bit. Treasury services go up a little, that went down a little bit. Attractive equipment, we dropped that a little bit. That's one where we have a little bit of control over, or a lot of control. We can punt when it comes to buying equipment. We can not do it for a few years, but eventually you're gonna have to pay for equipment for your staff. And then the big one we zeroed out was extra help. We can survive without that at this point, is our plan. We've been using much less of that over the years, and because we had some pretty high turnover, so we had some issues going on, so that's zeroed out. But anyway, the M&O is still a increase of $16,000. So the only thing we can take it out of is labor, which is the next slide. So we're moving our senior finance manager, who's 100% paid out of the general fund, into 107. And that really helps a lot, solves a lot of problems in our office. we've had a significant turnover with our investment officers over the last 5 years. I guess we do a really, really good job of training and developing skill sets so they can go on and go somewhere else and make a lot more money. So we've gone through 3 or 4 of them over the last 5 years. So we brought John Christina, who did it for 5 years, out of retirement. He's 72 years old. That is probably not a long-term solution for that. We also have a couple projects specific with that. The position in question is the investment and banking officer position, fully paid out of Fund 107. We're going to be doing some sort of banking RFP in the investment pot. And so having both John and JJ there, with JJ has been a fantastically loyal employee for 40 years now, when I hired him in 2001 or 2. So he's been a loyal employee. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. So I think we have a long-term solution in that key area of the office. It's kind of a little standalone thing. There's some overlap with other areas, but it's really hard to back up just from the general staff because it's such a unique position. And then kind of to accommodate that, we're have to really be careful with JJ and that senior finance manager, not to have him keep doing a whole bunch of general fund work, that he needs to be focusing on the majority of his work needs to be paid out of, it needs to be focused on the activities of the investment and the banking functions. So in response to that, we're taking a treasury specialist position, which we believe will have an opening soon, and dropping that and then increasing another accountant 2 position, which is a net change of $33,770. I suspect it would be significantly less than that because that assumes top salary, max benefits, all that stuff. And we know when we hire a position, it's going to be somewhere maybe mid-range. We don't know that it could be, employee only, so we don't know the exact mix. So that's the highest possible pay for the accountant 2, or pay and benefits for the accountant 2, and then it's kind of a mid-range for the treasury specialist. So the assumption is very conservative. It shows a higher cost probably than it will be. So that's really where we get a 126,000. The change in M&O gives us to our net target of 109, which so we meet our proposed budget. So those are the key changes. So any questions on M&O and staffing alignments?
What is attractive equipment?
It's non-capital, the accounting term, non-capital equipment. So it's just stuff in your office, computers, and we have a lot. If you want to come over and see our desks, we're doing a lot of stuff at the counter. So they need slip printers for this and different scanners for that. For e-reads, different than doing a cash receipt. And then some of the changes with Workday and some of the changes in our office, we'll talk about in a little bit, require different. How many pieces of equipment does each one of our? 8. So we have 8 different things about our counter based on the functions that they're doing in our office. So and attractive equipment literally means it's very attractive for somebody to walk off with it. So that's kind of the accounting, that's the accounting term of where attractive equipment. It's attractive to pilfer. So
That is my question.
yes, yeah, it's the small little gadgets and gizmos and goodies. I don't know why would somebody would want to customize program slip printer at home, but who knows? Who knows?
Because nobody else has one.
Show it off at the barbecue. Look what I got. So that's the key to the changes of personnel in the M&O that gets us to where we need to be. Next slide, please. So challenges. So our office is generally we have I'm talking general fund, the little side funds have they're by definition revenue neutral. So our office is revenue positive through the general fund. And this all goes to the it's kept by the general fund. We get a REIT admin fee, which is pretty significant. That's 1.3 or 1.4 million, depending on the year. That goes to the general fund to help defray the cost of the office. There's also our direct billing, which we'll talk a little bit about under discretionary services, where we actually bill for some of our non-statutory, non-constitutionally required duties. And then there's the penalty and interest revenue, which is retained by the county to defray the cost of tax collection, was the kind of idea. So we're revenue neutral, revenue positive within a very small amount. I think we're at right around 3.1, 3.2 projected revenue for the office. And then so when we're looking at a long-term challenge, we're looking at how sustainable are our discretionary services. So the biggest one we do, I would say, now that we're done with the scale house business, is our payment processing center, which gives us, it actually gives a little bump to the general fund, but it at least covers cost, is the goal between these intergovernmental relationships. So we process utility payments for both county utilities, and we've added the city of Spokane about 10 years ago. And those, like I said, pay for the cost. They help pay for the cost of capital, and they help, and then they give a little bump to the county general fund. So those would be these things would be the first things to go if we really got pushed against the wall on budget. These discretionary services. It's a fantastic program. It saves about 40% to half of what they would go out to market every time we looked at this. It saves the city, it saves the taxpayers at the end of the day. So it's good for the county. I think it's good for the general fund, and it's good. It's definitely a win for the taxpayer. You know, I don't think the city complains. They're quite happy now. They have had all sorts of issues down there with the aging equipment, et cetera. So yeah, I think you were on the board at the time. That weren't you there in 2015?
Yeah,
Yeah, and all the old equipment you guys had and the panic. So yeah, that was a
much better situation.
yes, it was. So we also do some other over-the-counter payments, like utility payments. We take them actually over the counter in our office. And by the way, all of these are unique, or you won't find any other county treasurer's office that does this in the state. And so we do other over-the-counter payments, which is a small number, but it's still another system. And I don't know if we need some equipment for utilities. Payment out of those, no, so okay, yeah. And then a recent one, which we're still trying to kind of shake out how much of an impact it will be, is the county AR system with the workday and the workflow rework. A lot of the work for the county accounts receivable system now lands in the treasurer's office. We have to balance, we have to do all this extra stuff that was used to be done at the departmental level. And so we're still kind of shaking that out on how much of an impact that will be. There is an opportunity there that we're going to be looking at. Is we're doing this work for non-general fund departments too. It's not just general fund departments. So the general fund department we're paid for, that's the general cost of government. If we're doing this for utilities, just like an over-the-counter payment, or we're doing it to some of these other funds, what's an appropriate billing mechanism that we can include into our process? I can't imagine it would be huge, but it would be tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, $20,000, something. It'll be something when we look at that. So we're going to be looking at that. What's the appropriate way to charge for that? Is it appropriate to charge for that? So we're in the budget. We're swapping out a treasury specialist, who's a frontline for a higher level position. So we do have some concerns. We believe we can maintain all of these discretionary services and the core duties at the front counter with the new arrangement. We've had, well, I'll get to that at the very end. Well, we're jumping in too much. So there are some questions there. We believe we can manage that, or else we wouldn't do it. The other challenge we haven't added much. You can go look back in the Wayback Machine, and look at where we've added. I can't remember the last time we've added staff in the office. So we've always managed to make it work. We haven't added during good times. We don't have a lot to cut during bad times. Most of what we've asked for has been required M&O spending. We haven't changed a lot, and we kind of need to change a lot. Changed, well, quite a bit at this point. So the final challenge we have is I put down 2030 and 175 years. So in 2030, the 5 people in the management team, myself, my chief deputy, her 2 supervisors, Debbie Garrett, Debbie Gruber, and our senior finance manager, JJ Hernandez, will have 175 years worth of experience, and will all be eligible to retire, which is an extraordinarily unique situation in the county. I'm pulling down, I'll pull down the average by that point. I pull down the average today. In 2030, I'll be 65 with 30 years experience, and I'm pulling down the average of the employees. Krista has how many? 36 years right now. Debbie Garrett has 37. Yeah, right now. And so add 5 years to that. So there could be a significant retirement of senior management staff. So one of the reasons we've been kind of migrating, there's always been a gap between the management and the staff on like kind of a core of professional level people who could be the next generation of managers and leaders in the office. And part of the reason why we're dropping the treasury specialist, bringing an accountant, is we think that's probably a more viable option that could be the next finance manager or the next financial services supervisor, the next treasurer, or the next chief deputy down the road. So that's one of the things, not a lot of things that keep me awake at night. Thinking if nothing changes in 5 years and we all just walk out the door and wish you well. Part of it's the unique nature of the work is if you want somebody to do payroll or accounts payable or HR, IT, it's a challenge to find good people, but you can find them. There's a lot of them in Spokane County. There's not a lot of tax collectors, property tax collectors in Spokane County. So we have to kind of think about developing our own bench rather than doing even a nationwide or a regional search for some of these positions, because they just don't make sense. It takes us about 2 years just to train an entry level position. When they come in, because we have a year cycle, by the time the statements go out and till the statements go out for the next year, you go through a year-long cycle. And so by the time they see that twice, and they tell us, or almost every one of them, oh, it makes a lot more sense the second time around. Well, of course, that's how we learn. So I think that's a emerging and a pretty significant challenge is how do we manage through that? So that's all I have.
So a couple things on your senior employees, at some point, we put you on the Jim Amacio retention program. It actually works out very well.
For you, yeah, zero cost and quality work.
So, thanks for all you do for the county, and you've been very successful at instituting new programs over the years and stuff to try and live within the means. But I personally have got a concern that we're not going to hit our numbers this year, and so I've asked every department head a question. I don't want an answer. I just want you to think about it. Is if we get to a point to where we've got to make another round of cuts, is there anything that you do that is not statutorily required? Or is there anything that you do that could be modified to where we might be able to get another round of savings? Again, I don't want you to answer now. I want you to just think about it. I'm hoping we don't get there, but if we do, I don't want you to be, oh dear God, they should have warned us. This is your warning. Thank you.
Well, I can answer. I think I touched on it briefly, like what's the appropriate billing for service, whether it's a cut or a revenue enhancement, right, to the general fund, you get to the same spot. So I think there's a couple options that we could look at there that might get us a little bit of money. We're kind of lucky. We have those little separate funds that we can look at what's the appropriate level of funding that I can straight face when a state auditor walks in. You know, I can't move, 10 people into investments and call it good. But we going back years, there was a time when we had 2 FTEs paid out of the investment, an admin fee, an investment officer and an assistant. So I mean, right now I'm double stacked with, pretty high level guys in there to get through, get JJ trained up. So John can stay retired. I'm so thankful he could come out. So there's things like that we can look at on some of these shifting. There's actually there's a fee out there that we've never charged before. And it's at the discretion of the treasurer, and it's a pretty challenging one for me to get to. It's where we charge, like these special assessment districts because they're on our tax statement, which to me is just a good public service, right? And so am I gonna be the guy that goes out there and says, hey, we're gonna charge? Other counties do. And I think if you've been around for a while, we navigated the waters in about 2011 and 12, where we shifted out the banking fees. And so we got the districts to pay their fair share of banking fees, and we were called, heretics by a variety of other county treasurers. But that's been in place for a long time. So we're always looking at ways just to get kind of parity, like you pay for your service, we pay for ours. On an aside, I co-sponsored a bill that said exactly that for tax, like all the districts would have to pay the county for the tax collection, which of course didn't go far because there's a lot more cities and school districts and fire districts than there are counties. All the counties love the idea that these districts pay, but that's not how we're set up right now. But we're looking for these areas where we can contain costs or generate extra revenue to the general.
I appreciate you bringing back up to 2011, 12, 13. Very challenging, and we actually had to borrow money. I think we borrowed it from the treasurer to meet payroll and stuff. I mean,
It was tough.
It was tough times and stuff. And so I'm trying to avoid that with other kind of creative thinking.
Yeah, so we're always thinking over there. We think we have some options. We can't step too hard into some of this stuff. We have to be able to straight face it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thanks for working with the University District on a potential loan. So that we can purchase that property from Avista. So
Yeah,
thank you for following up on that and working through that. There's a couple of hoops that they need to jump through
There
first.
are a couple hoops, which we might be coming back to you. One of the hoops might be having you guys backstop it, which you've done in the past on some of those. So,
But
yeah.
yes, I appreciate you working with them.
Yeah, we're open for business. We're trying to get the word out. We've done those local direct investments for years, and nobody's ever complained on either side. We're happy with the extra interest earnings, and people are happy with paying less interest. So we kind of split the baby, as they say. Anything else for the good of the order? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Thanks again, Jeff, to you and your team. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Jason.
The minis.
Good until 9. What time is that? On Saturday night at 9 p.m.
Nice job with the gym.
Oh, no problem.
That turned out really nice.
That did.
What is?
Yeah. Yeah, the guys did a good job. We're getting good at it now. Yeah, yeah. Well, putting in that flooring,
Apparently his team won.
that type of flooring.
But that's why we were there. till
The guys are getting really good at it. So took them a while to figure out how to cut it properly.
They should have asked me. I've personally installed that.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really easy once you get the hang of it.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple of guys that had never worked with it before. And we tried a couple different things, and then once they got it down, they're going. Yep.
We'll wait till we get a couple of boosters back. Okay. But we are still on, so you can put the speed as heard.
Might need some soundboards down there, so when we get to that point, I can tell you how to put those together.
Okay.
And very inexpensively put them together and stuff.
Okay.
Break up some of the sound. Pastor just walked in. Everybody's quiet.
The excitement of the Seahawks.
Did you go?
What's that?
Did you go to Seattle?
I went yeah, for the opener, but yesterday was in Pittsburgh, so,
Oh, yeah.
Did they end up winning yesterday?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Second half, they were a totally different team. And our Mariners are killing it. Wow,
Sole possession. First
I
place.
know, I know.
But there's one game out now,
One game up.
Yeah,
one game out.
yeah.
Ahead of the Astros.
The Astros, you just. Okay.
So did the Rangers.
Good.
Well, your chance to watch. your
I
play.
knew that. Yeah. Well, this is the year and a half. You know, it may build.
Yeah.
Good things to come.
Not a 10-1 fair opening, you guys can burn the place down.
First
Thanks.
place. The Astros.
I know.
We're ready to go.
Yeah, that would be big.
Gil, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. We are here to discuss the proposed facilities budget for 2026. For our proposed budget, we're using the same budget amount that we did for 2025. And we look for creative ways to reduce that by 7%. Some of the ideas, so the proposed reductions that we can account for is we do know that we are, and this was rough calculation because it could be more than this depending on the price of natural gas, but we should see about $141,000 natural gas reduction after the first of the year. And the strategy behind that is the county has some fuel tanks that they put into operation at the start of the operation of the facilities utility plant that I have filled with diesel fuel. I now need to have those tanks inspected, so I have to burn one of them off. So we're gonna be burning one of those off. And going forward with the new system, it won't require us to carry that much fuel. So we will burn that one off, refurbish it, have it inspected, have it recertified, and then we'll transfer from tank number 1 over to that tank. And then we'll put tank number 1 into kind of a standby mode for emergencies. The new systems don't require near this amount of fuel. So it will be nice to be able to do maintenance so we won't have any emergency situations. So that was one of our items. The other one is I'm going to see a headcount reduction next year. I do have a retirement in April, which we will not backfill that FTE. And then we have another FTE that we are going to reduce and then share that FTE with the budgeting department. So they'll go to 50%. That's part of a strategy there. I also have 2 other employees that are on the cusp of retirement, 66 years old. So that could possibly next year, but it comes at a position that these are the positions as part of the infrastructure upgrade that we are not looking to backfill. One of them we're looking to restructure, and the other one we're looking to eliminating. So those will be coming in the next couple of years. Janitorial, we're tracking right now to see at least a $300,000 reduction here next year, and then on M&O reductions, that will balance out my 7%. We had a couple of projects that we had in line. We took them as to, these were some of the ones that were nice to do. So we'll be looking at ways to reduce some of that structure and shop out some of the pricing on some items. So for right now, it looks like we should be able to hit that 7% reduction in the facilities budget for next year. And hopefully on next page, next slide. Hopefully next year, so right now we have items on the infrastructure upgrade that are ahead of schedule. We're looking at the potential of next year putting the hot water system is going live. That'll be a year ahead of schedule. So that all the domestic hot water here at the county will be going through the utility plan. So we'll actually be able to start collecting data on that early, but that actually makes hot water at a way more efficient rate. We're going from roughly around probably 70% all the way up to 90%. So we should be able to save some money there, and then possibly this winter we're actually starting the oil change outs for the jail. We're hoping that by next fall we may be running the new Clearfires, which are the smaller boilers. The hydronic boilers should be online. We're hoping next fall. So it's falling in line for us to get these new pieces of equipment into operation sooner than later. So we can start to collect the benefits from them now, the reductions. So this will really help on our overall savings schedule for the project. Right now, looking at the project as a whole, where over the life of the project, we were looking at that 10-year savings of about 9.1 million. We're looking at about 9.5, 9.6. So, and potentially even better. So depending on how soon we can get these items online.
As these potential savings come online, you're looking at them through your budget. Which
Yes.
also goes out to departments through the classification plan.
Yep.
Which is kind of why it's hard to
Yeah.
account for it the way you've been accounting
Yeah.
for it, because it's not really dollars that we're reducing expenses in the general fund. It's already getting accounted for in another department and then through the cost allocation plan.
The nice part about this is with as part of that infrastructure upgrade, that new software that we're merging with Metasys, that Open Blue software, where it's real-time energy data. So we'll be able to actually see those from the recent trends and the information that we've already logged. We'll be able to actually see where those savings are coming from. We'll be able to see if we have any increases in power usage or natural gas usage. We'll be able to react on them instantly, so we can really get a better idea of what's going on. Yep. Good stuff moving forward.
Yeah, no.
Yep. Actually, I got asphalt work going on today, so I'm excited. I know. Well, we had to redo our schedule on that because of the strike that's going on right now. So we did finally get a local company here bid in that we're able to use for that, so I can release that area back. I've had it closed down for about 2 months now. I can get that back up.
Any other questions?
Awesome. All right, I'll call me if you have anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming up early.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I know you do. Okay.
That's everything this morning. I do want to remind you, next week, the afternoon, that's the week you guys said that we could schedule you till 5 o'clock. So good, I'm good.
On Monday? Next Monday?
That's next Monday. We're actually scheduled to about 4:30. But the morning next week, we'll start with Justin and the mental health sales tax. In the district court and superior court, we'll find some longer conversations. The afternoon is IT, followed by juvenile, scraps, public defense. Originally that afternoon, was detention services, which is why we're gonna go longer. But then, some of their team was out of town next week, so we moved them forward to this week. We'll be able to get ready in time, so we still fill that extra time to make everything fit. Just wanted to call that to your attention about next week.
So where are we moving detention services?
Detention services, tentatively, we thought we'd move to the backside on October 6th. And then we would just move, we can do the outside agencies conversation. Really, anytime that we end early, that's Tessa and I think Kat, that services will be flexible too. And so that's our tentative thought. We will be meeting with detention again either this week or early next, and then we'll have a better idea of what we want.
So except for the move on detention services, the presentation document that's in the budget folder, that's updated.
For detention services?
No, except for detention services, all the other things are updated. Everything is current in the budget folder. Okay. And you'll just make edits in that document. Okay. So detention services probably the 6th.
That's what we were thinking. We'll confirm after we meet with them again and kind of get a sense of it. They had some with the NAV care and those contract changes. That's a $4.5 million net right there that outside of everybody's control. So that's and then the other conversations we had this morning, there's a lot of moving pieces there.
Given it's the largest single general fund department that pulls up underneath the commissioners. Make sure it's very tight and easy to understand, and so it's just taking us a little bit longer time, and we're just going through a number of reviews to help it be a very productive meeting.
So not wanting to hold you to a number, but what would you say our delta is now?
You define it.
Plus or minus $100 million.
If you're defining it as to the status quo of last year, which would be, if you define that as a 25 budget. Plus enough extra money that people can afford the increases to wage and salaries, we're looking at about a $10 million. At this point, if we started with 20, we have, 5 or 6 for capital. We have an extra 4, 3 to 4 coming in on the sales tax side with current analysis. But we have a lot of departments that you've seen today. They've solved on that internally. And so.
We have a lot of departments that haven't.
Well, yeah, the departments who have not been able to solve yet will be coming forward. That will offset some of this.
Yeah.
So I'd say between 5 and 10. Depending on, the detention is really the big one. That's probably our most challenging budget. You can see the sheriff budget going up, but a lot of that's backfilled because of the valley is doing additional deputies. So the number goes up, but it's of no impact to us.
This is based upon what we know as of today,
Correct.
with still a full quarter ahead of us.
And that's. How much capital are we baking into that? That's.
We've estimated between 5 and 6. That's a choice. We'll be bringing the capital
Right, I
plan
mean, that's a
forward.
choice if we wanted to use operating dollars or.
You'll have the REIT to look at the operating dollars. Road shift is sometimes.
For now, that's built into that. So you're saying of the about 10 million remaining, but half of that is capital.
No, add capital on, you're up to 15.
Oh, okay.
And that's,
5 to 10 on the operations side, plus 5, 6 on the capital.
and that's assuming a 0 increase on any of the taxes.
Correct.
Okay.
We are. I guess you can't take 1 million off of everything because of the assessor's 1.47 of new assessed construction. That will be about $1 million coming in without raising taxes. So that will be helpful.
No closed session. Have to. If you look at our budget right now, and what everyone's submitted,
We're great.
we're in a good position, right? Our revenues are over expenses, but we also know we've got to address some benefit conversation that Ashley presented last week. Detention service is going to be a big one. Likely there will be some in the sheriff's department, but so far, pretty much everyone has come in and indicated that they can hit their target assigned budget. But we have some big ones to go still.
And just FYI, Tessa's out this week. It's the Workday Rising Conference. So we have several people down there. who, The idea is to come back and make the system even better for us. But if you have other questions, Jason, Patrick. Just this week, Tessa will be back one day.
There any, well, just a question on the number that is that assuming any budget savings from this year? Are you already building that in?
You've not built.
Cause I thought we were already
You mean
freezing
underspend for
positions
this
and
year?
underspending, planning to underspend this year, and we were building that.
So that would roll into the general fund balance, which you could choose to apply to next year's budget.
And many of those headcount reductions are being built into the department's plans that they're presenting to you today.
And so, of the budget carry forward revenue, traditionally what we've done is we put that in reserves as opposed to trying to bank it into a budget that then makes the following year even more unsustainable. So, unlike what the city did, is they did the carry forward to balance the next year's budget. We've deliberately said, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna, anything that we save of the year goes into reserves. That way we make sure that we're growing the reserves as we're growing the general fund.
Right, but when you look at like a 5-year forecast or projection, it would lower. I mean, it should be changing our forecast if we're saving money this year, should be changing next year's forecast. But I guess if you just assume you're putting it in reserves, then it wouldn't.
A lot of the savings is, if they're ongoing savings, is what departments are capturing.
Right. I mean, I thought that earlier this year you identified some ongoing savings.
We did, a lot of that is the vacancies in detention.
Oh.
And that is going to arbitration, and so that could be wiped out once. Or not. So that's the biggest chunk. You'll recall once the latest that council 2 or 1553. When that contract was settled, we also went back and did the retro January 1, which wiped out a big chunk.
Of what we spent previously.
So we're still money ahead, but nowhere near the dollar amount you saw a few months ago.
And the other thing is that we benefited from grants this year that we might not get next year. You know, there's certain things that are one-time events that if you bank on them and they don't occur, then you're even worse off. That's why we just said, you know, anything we save, put in reserves, and then that way every year is a zero balance budget that you're starting out with.
One thing, once the board adopts the budget this year, that will then change. We'll update the projections because our projections that we're operating under showed the $15 million delta. But once the board adopts a balanced budget, then it'll give us an opportunity to go back and recast the forecast for the next 5 years. Sales taxes are starting to be more positive, trending up. So that'll help close the gap. But as you all remember, our gap wasn't just 26, it was 27, many years, but that'll help readjust to see what the adjusted gap is going forward.
There'll be a gap, but it should be significantly smaller.
It'll be interesting to see if the sales tax jump that we've seen over the last couple months sustains itself through the Christmas season. It's difficult to explain how, I mean, everybody budgeted conservatively at that 1% for next year, and we're clearly trending above that. So I don't know why, but you know, God bless them, spend that money.
It's positive.
Are there any other miscellaneous items to come before us this morning? No.
Shout out to Aaron Gertel at the fair. I went several times and it was great. This weekend was packed, when I was there, so like great turnout. Can't wait to see the final numbers.
So I saw a notice that said that the city council is voting on a 911 measure tonight. We know what that's about. Interesting. Okay.
And I want to say fantastic state of the county. That was great.
So we're gonna celebrate tonight, but thank everyone for helping. So, yeah, thank you. I mean, I think, you know, it was a sellout crowd. They were sold out for like a couple weeks before, and I think.
There were people scalping tickets out front. Nope, I already got mine. It's like, I ain't paying double, you know, and I just walked right by them.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I gotta sneak in.
Yeah, Ron had to sneak in.
I did. Supposed to be gone last week.
Oh, so,
He had to pay one of the scalpers.
I love it. No, I think the team did great, and we highlighted, I can't highlight everything that's going on in the county, but I think we did a good job of highlighting, you know, things that people just don't even think about. So, yeah, so thank you. Appreciate that.
Chair, there's one thing, I took this in the paper, but I believe the 1889 state constitution document is at the library today, 3 to 5, I believe, at downtown library, so that's a cool opportunity.
That's
Just wanted to share that, because if I get a few minutes, I'm gonna try and sneak it.
okay.
But if you want to see my signature.
I knew JJ Brown of Brown's Edition was a member of the Constitutional Convention. I didn't know Commissioner French was there too.
He was an intern.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can go reminisce down at the library.
Bring a tear in my eye.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we don't have anything this afternoon, is that correct now?
Do not.
We left it on the calendar knowing it would be canceled, but if there's something more to come up, it would have been. So.
Okay. Very good. Then we will adjourn. Oh, wait.
Sorry, there are just a couple quick updates, I guess. The video highlight reel from State of the County is available on our YouTube. If anyone wants to share it, you can also put it on Facebook so you can share it more easily. All the departments that were highlighted there, pretty much the same thing you saw at the State of the County. We'll work with Justin and his team, all that storytelling that they did around the investments of opioid dollars, I think sales taxes. He had a 5-minute spot there. So if anybody would like to share that, some really good, I think, awareness about the sobering center in there, what that's going to be, etc. I just messaged with Sparber and Justin to try and start initiating some planning for a groundbreaking or a sign raising, if that's what we're going to do on the property for the expansion. So look for some dates coming soon. I think we've settled on a date for the Winter Ops press conference. It's like the 1st or 2nd week of October. Martha Lou will make sure for those of you who responded, it gets on your calendar. On back to the sobering center for a minute. You'll recall we had a 1-pager on that, something that you all can use in your communications or community meetings and such, and that we're going to build out a website. I did get some feedback. We extended the timeline for feedback, so we're gonna do a recast of that. Probably get it to you all this week sometime to see, and that will help with the website as well. But in tandem with the groundbreaking, I don't know the construction timeline or if anyone knows, but it's likely to be hopefully before the snow flies. And I imagine it'll be some ground moving, for media and community stakeholders that can attend that. But we'll work on all the event plan for it that's coming up. I'm going to send out today the press release for the public roundtables. There's been interest in what we're doing to communicate the budget and the public's opportunity. So I know you debuted those at State of the County, but we'll get a release out and work to get some media attention on that so the public knows. But also encourage all of you, we'll create a graphic to share it on your Facebook. Just let your constituents know in case they want to come down or testify online, or share their views on where we're headed with the budget. That's part of our standard communications plan around budget rollout. So that's what we got there.
And Ron just reminded me of one thing. So because of the sponsorship level, we are with the Valley Chamber. They seems to assign us an event that we are a host. And so it looks like again this year it's that Manufacturing Matters dinner. So we'll have to fill half a table. I know last year or 2 years ago, I think it was half a table, not a full table. So gotta
And have an opportunity to
assign folks to go to that.
speak as the sponsor.
Yeah, that's
Somebody is.
October 2nd. I can't make it, but I just wanted to highlight that.
And I believe SUR3 is also gonna have a table there too.
That we,
Yes, I will not be there either.
Okay, and I, like I said, 2 years ago, I think there are 8 tops, but I think we only had 4 seats. I think it was just half the table that we got, but so we'll need to send at least 4 people in from the county to fill those seats. But I can't make it. But it is a really cool event.
Yeah, I probably will
great
be
event.
there. More than likely representing SUR3, but. So
You can jump back and forth between the
I
tables.
can jump back and forth between
Get 2 meals.
salad there,
Yeah.
meal there, dessert there. I can do that.
that reminded me the legislative forum and the economic forecast events for GSI will be coming up. So I'll get around an email. We have tables of both of those that come with our membership level. 8 seats at each, so I'll get those around and start taking names.
Economic forecast is always the day after the election.
Yeah.
So I remember last year we had a full table and there was only like 4 of us there, so.
I'm sleeping in.
We'd be on the economics.
So Pat, on the budget communications, is there a landing page where folks can go?
Yes.
To like find out when we have public meetings, workshops, how to send in comments online?
Sure, the communications office just worked with Tessa in the budget office to create that landing page at SpokaneCounty.gov/budget. And that'll have it's a 2026 budget information. I'll work with Sharissa to make sure that the dates are on there, but all of your materials, slides, the budget office is very good about putting all their presentations up there. But in terms of the dates, I think what we're gonna do is just create a graphic or just a little reel for social media. And that's what we can get up. Should be very easy to put that on the landing page too. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, as of last week, I just hadn't seen much on the budget page, except for one. There's a lot of old budget info, from like previous years. But maybe I was on the wrong, I just thought.
I think the presentation's posted like the day of or the day after the roundtable. But I'll work with Tessa to see what information's missing.
In years past, we've put kind of a shortcut on the SpokaneCounty.org website, like along the top, where kind of with the little flashing beacons that say, budget information. I know we've done that in years, but I don't think we've done every year, but I know it was kind of neat. Just you go to the homepage, it's right there
Might be
running.
helpful, yeah.
Yep, we can do that as well.
Then
I'll
as soon
go back and-
as soon as we get past the budget season, we take it off. But
Right, yeah, there's some highlight buttons and I think we have a carousel on the main page, so we'll work on getting that more prominence.
Okay,
Right now, it's the large document, it's at about 185 pages of it.
so they can look at everything. think with that, then we will adjourn for the morning and we won't be back this afternoon. So we'll see everybody back.